Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com and chrisvossshow.com. Here are blog posts we want to share with you. Of course, for you the latest in social media and technology. Be sure to give us a like, follow us on YouTube, and subscribe so that you can get all the updates that we bring you from all the major phone companies that we review phones for. So this is going to be from AT&T.com. Be sure to check out their website. They have the fastest download and upload speeds in the mobile market. And we have the AT&T Motorola Moto X that's just come out against the AT&T Apple iPhone 5. So we're going to be doing a comparison head-to-head with both these. We're going to be doing a comparison on how they operate and everything else. And also we'll be doing a comparison on benchmarks and camera work. So stay tuned as we go through this. So let's take a look at the size, design, and some of the specs in each of these. Now the Moto X runs on Android. It's 4.2.2 version of Android that comes on. On the Apple, it runs on the iOS 6.1 that we have on this particular phone right now. On the Motorola X, you're looking at a size of 5.09 inches, 2.57 in width, and 0.41 inches in thickness. Comparatively, on the Apple iPhone 5, we have 4.87 inches in height, 2.31 inches in width, and 0.30 inches in thickness. On the Motorola X, we have a weight of 4.59 ounces, comparatively to 3.95 ounces on the iPhone 5. On the Moto X, we have a display screen size of 4.7 inches, resolution 720 by 1280 pixels, and a pixel density of 316 ppi. Comparatively, with the Apple iPhone 5, we have a physical size of screen of 4 inches, 640 by 1136 pixels, and 326 ppi. Both have got great screens that you can take in view on. So battery talk time is about 13 hours on the Moto X, and on the battery for the iPhone 5, looks like talk time on 3G is 8 hours. The battery capacity for the Moto X is 2,200 milliamp hours, just a huge battery comparative there. With the iPhone 5, you're looking at only 1,440 milliamp hour batteries. So, with the hardware that's inside them, you're looking at the Motorola X8 Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Pro. Has some really interesting modifications that Motorola's put into this. We'll get to in a bit later. It's dual-core 1.7 megahertz Kraut, and it's got 2 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of built-in storage. You can get an upgraded model that has 32 gigabytes of storage on it. On the Apple, you're looking at what they call the Apple A6 chip. It's basically a dual-core 1.3 gigahertz Apple chip. It's got 1 gigabyte of RAM in this model and 64 gigabytes. Of course, you can of built-in storage. Of course, you can upgrade. 60. You can do 32, 64, and stuff with the Apples. You can buy extra memory if you so choose. Neither have expandable memory with micro SD cards. Should probably know. The camera on the Moto X is a 10 megapixel camera, and one thing that's interesting about it is it has a 1080p camcorder for video that does 60 frames per second, and the video is pretty darn rich, let me tell you. Front-facing camera is 2 megapixels. On the Apple iPhone 5, we're looking at 8 megapixels out the back, and 1080p video, but only 30 frames per second. Front-facing camera is 1.2 megapixels. Now, one major difference between these two devices is the Apple iPhone does not have NFC technology, where the Moto X does have NFC technology, and actually it uses it. There's some gear you get with the Moto X that you can take and utilize. So let's take a look at both these OSs. With the Moto X, you have the Android OS. You have pretty good customization features you can take and do. Easy, quick buttons you can take and get into to make adjustments to your system. It's pretty simple and easy. There are not only apps that are listed on your screen, there's also widgets that you can take and utilize. Many people like the Android process because it is more customizable, not only in the apps but in the camera area, than the iOS product with the Apple iPhone 5. It's great program for otherwise on the Android system. I tend to love the Android software. For the Apple iPhone, you've got a similar system where you've got apps on your screen, etc., etc. You can go into settings, and it actually does now have a notifications menu where you can drop down notifications. Fairly limited on what you could share. You can only share through Twitter and Facebook at this point in time. Or normally you can share stuff through a wide variety of apps on the Android system. Let's take a look at the front of both these. We've got some sensors here on the Moto X, a front-facing speaker for calls, front-facing camera, a microphone, and then we have a capacitive touchscreen area for the back button, the home button, and kind of a menu recent apps button. On the iPhone 5, we have a little front-facing camera. Or to the side here, we have a little sensor, and then we also have your speaker for calls, and we have just a single home button. Flipping both these over to the back, you can take a look at the back of both these. They both have really cool ergonomic backs that fit really well to the product and everything else. So on them, you've got your camera eye up here with the Motorola and your lamp flash, which is very bright. Small microphone hole here in the back to keep listening. And, of course, your speaker that is here. Not real excited about this speaker that's on this phone, let me tell you. It's okay. Let's put it that way. The iPhone 5, you can see the camera eye there at the top, upper left. There's a small microphone there and the lamp flash. That's pretty much it for the back of it. Let's take a look at both these phones from the top. From the top on the Moto X, left to right, you've got the microphone hole, and then you've got your earphone jack right in the center of the phone, which is very convenient. You've got your power button on the top of the iPhone 5. Coming down the left side of the Moto X, you've got just a SIM card tray. It's a nano SIM card too, just like on the iPhone 5. You've got your mute button on the iPhone 5 and two separate buttons for your volume up and volume down. On both these devices, for the Moto X, you've got on the bottom your sync charge area, and then you've got your earphone jack actually on the bottom of the iPhone 5, your speaker on the bottom, and your sync charge port also. Down the right hand side of the Moto X, you're looking at the volume rocker button, very small, and very small power button, and then on the middle you've got your nano SIM card tray on the iPhone 5. Okay, so now both these come with voice-activated systems where you can take and activate different things on them. With the Moto X, it's Google Now. With the Apple iPhone 5, it's going to be the Siri program. And Siri, of course, most people are pretty familiar with Siri at this point. You can take and talk to Siri and get just about whatever you want, and it'll search for you and everything else, as well as Google Now on the Moto X program for the Motorola Moto X. So, what's really different here between the two, though, is the new technology that's built into the processor of the Moto X. It's designed to have the ability to listen to you without running the battery down too fast. And it listens to you and basically can take commands from you, pulling it out of standby mode, and you basically don't have to touch it to get it to do some of the things you would normally have to press the button and hold to get Siri to take and do. So it's kind of interesting that way in the technology that's been developed into the Moto X. Okay, Google Now. Look up CNN.com. So normally with Siri, I'd have to press the button to get this sort of thing to happen. And it looks like it's going to take us to the website and get it going. So simply by saying, OK, Google Now, and it's tuned to my voice, I can get this to do a lot of different functions. So let's try one here. OK, Google Now, send text, subject, Bob. We'll see if this will work. Oh, we didn't quite get it right. OK, Google Now, send text, subject, Bob. Now, what you can do is you can tell it to set up a subject for you. In this case, we haven't really told it to search for a Bob that we have in our contact list, so it's not finding it, not populating. But normally we can just edit the message from there and be able to send it. pretty interesting in the concept they've taken and built into the Motorola device, and I don't know, it's pretty cool. There's several different things you can do. You can also set up the Google Now to be very smart and do what's called an assist program, where it can talk to you about texts and emails that you get while you're driving down the road. It will actually sense when you're driving. Meetings, you can set meetings to avoid interruptions, and sleeping. You can set the hours that you sleep to not be interrupted by your phone. And basically, it will know what you're doing and what you're up to at all given times. It's pretty interesting technology they've built into it comparatively to the Siri. And it seems to respond very well. Now, if you're familiar with Google Now also integrates with Gmail, all your other communications, and everything else. And so Google Now will usually give you what are called cards and different information that you may want or need or usually want to have about flights you may take, trips you may be on, different connecting things that you may have, different things that you might be interested in. Google Now is a pretty good little program, and there's a lot of promise to it in the hope that it's going to be pretty much integrated with your life and helps you get stuff done. Let's see if we can get into Google Now so you can see. So Google Now can usually present different cards. You can see here we've got the different things. There's some different things that I might be interested in. It looks like it's got some of my shipments here from Amazon that are in here, et cetera, et cetera. So it will go in and basically find stuff that I've been interested in or been watching on. Obviously, I've searched on some of the Syria CNN stuff, so it's pulling some of that up. So basically, it acclimates the information that you might be interested in based upon communications you're having, presents them to you. It basically pays attention to what you like, what you do, and gives you the information that it thinks you might want. Pretty smart and neat stuff. So we have both those, two different voice-activated systems, the Moto X with the Google Now, and then, of course, we have the Siri. And it's up to you to decide which one you like better. Okay, so let's take a look at the scores we're getting on both these devices. Now, the Motorola Moto X is coming in with a score of 675 using the Geekbench 3 app. It's the newest app that's out from Geekbench, so no longer using the Geekbench 2, we're using Geekbench 3. Now, the multi-core score, I should say, is 1254 that the Moto X took and got. Comparatively, the iPhone 5 scored with a 714 single-core score and 1294 for the multi-core score. One of these days I'll learn how to say that right. So let's go down through the numbers and see how both performed. You can see here the different breakdowns of each of these devices, etc., what they have on them. The great thing is you can download these apps and follow along at home and everything else. So let's take a look at these. We'll keep going down through, and you can pause this at any time. I really don't pay attention to these individual numbers. They really don't mean that much to me, but some people really nerd out on them. So if that's your thing, there you go. You can play with the numbers, see what you think, and do a comparative analysis between the two. Okay, so now this is interesting. The Geekbench 2 app actually comes out with different results than the Geekbench 3 app. On the Geekbench 2 app, we're coming out with a score of 2064 against 1666 on the iPhone 5. So very interesting. You can see some breakdowns of the integer scores down here. Not sure why they're different from app to app, but who knows. Okay, so now what we've done is we've run the Passmark Performance Test mobile app to test how well both these devices pair up. You can see here that on the Android Moto X, we're looking at 2827. Comparatively on the iOS, 3936 is the score we took and got on this. We'll page down here to the bottom. Now, the great thing, once again, is you can download these apps and follow along at home. CPU-wise, the test came in at 7,054 against CPU for the iPhone 5, 24,128. Kind of surprised by these scores because technically the processor is faster on the Moto X, and there actually is a whole lot of other stuff that's going on where it's listening and it's got some different modifications to its processor. So, who knows? I guess we'll just take a look at these results and see what we think. So disk test 11,872 against 15,677. Memory 2938 against memory tests on the Moto X 3218. Page down some more. 2D graphics on the Moto X, 2812 against 1643, and 3D graphics 813 against 1753 on the iPhone 5. Okay, so here you can see the test we did using the GFX Bench 2.7.2. Now this is the old GL benchmark app that's very popular to use for measuring results. The score on the newest thing that we're using, of course, is the old C24Z16 off-screen test. 903 frames at 16 frames per second on the Moto X, comparatively 372 frames at 6.6 frames per second on the on-screen test. 1440 frames at 26 frames per second versus 748 frames on the iPhone 5 at 13 frames per second. Okay, so let's take a look at the camera on both devices. So what we have here is you've got the camera for your Moto X is kind of simple in its use, as is actually the iPhone 5 also. There's some kind of unique features they put into the Moto X camera, which is pretty cool. They've got some different things where basically just pulling in from left and right, you can do different adjustments to flash, slow motion video, panorama, all that sort of good stuff. There's even a corkscrew thing where you can, by using your hand in a corkscrew motion, you can activate the camera and bring it up as opposed to having to find it and touch it. So that's very interesting that they've given that. If you pull from right to left, and this works in both landscape and portrait, you can pull up your gallery so you can go through photos and see them in the gallery. One other thing you can take and do that's very cool and interesting with the camera is by moving up and down, as you can see there in the upper left hand corner, you can adjust the zoom. So it has some interesting properties that are very simple in its format and make it really kind of easy to use, etc., etc. You get your video button here and your front-facing camera flip button, if you will. Over on the iPhone 5, it has a good camera too. Now there's a 10 megapixel that's on the Moto X. You have an 8 megapixel that's on the iPhone 5. You have 60 frames per second at 1080p and 60 and 30 frames per second on the video of the iPhone 5. So pretty simple here in the setup too. You can easily switch on and off the flash. You can go through several options of grid, HDR, and panorama. Not a lot of customization you can do with the iPhone 5 as you can. You can switch to the front-facing camera, switch between your video and photo modes, and of course you have a shutter button and a gallery area. And of course you also have a zoom here where you can use zoom to zoom in and out. So you've got that function also. Let's take a look at some of the pictures that this thing takes and gets, and we'll go into some of the gallery photos, if we will. They both take exceptionally great photographs, and we're going to go ahead and look at some photographs that were taken in a dark setting. This happens to be a dark closet. They both have excellent flashes, lamp buttons for both video and photo, and they take really good photos. You can see here the difference in similar shots between these two photos. Video-wise, they take really good video photos, and they have really good lamps to them, really good focus. The iPhone 5 seems to do a little bit better job, and it's a great camera in the optics they put in the iPhone 5. There's a little bit of difference sometimes in the colors that are picked up. You can see in the Moto X. It's really up to you to decide maybe which one works better for you, etc., etc. Color-wise, the cameras both pick up great colors. I mean, you got 10 megapixel camera and everything else, and it does a good job with it. Let's see if we can't find the companion photo for this. There you go. You can see the different photos. Now both these have their brightnesses turned up all the way, so it's really up to you to decide which ones you like better. Definitely the camera's picking up on the iPhone 5 a little bit better. Let's take a look at some outdoor shots. Now this is a macro shot that we shot with the Moto X. We're very impressed in how it picked up the macro shot. We're really close. We're very similarly close here, and then we moved in a little bit closer on this next shot. And the iPhone 5 does good at close-up shots, but we're really impressed with the detail that came out in the 10 megapixel. Now we're not comparing these side by side. Keep that in mind. We're just kind of giving you a broad overview of some of the different photos that we took. So let's go back to, you can see here some of the colorization. Some of this is how the screens also present, keep in mind. but it's up to you to decide which photos might work best for you. You can see some compares here. Let's go ahead and flip to some more photos that we can take a look at. Now, these aren't taken in the same sort of shot angles. We're just taking photos, and you can kind of compare colors, contrasts, all that stuff. They both take great photos. There's just no question about either camera when it comes to taking great photos and everything else. And good video too, of course. Now, I do love the richness here. I can see that there's much better richness in the color and pop of the Moto X, mainly because it's got 60 frames per second, so it's just getting a lot more richer juice in its recordings and everything else. But other than that, I mean, they're both great cameras. It's really hard to tell you which one might be a better camera, although I do like the iPhone 5 much better in the images that I'm seeing, although I like the video on the Moto X better. That's my personal opinion. And I do like how the Moto X actually seems to do a little bit better in close-up macro shots. So that's what I think. It's up to you what you want to decide. Okay, so all in all, I like both phones. It's really up to you to decide which phone works best for you. Be sure to check them out. Give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube to follow all the great stuff we do on the chrisvossshow.com. We have the AT&T Motorola Moto X that you can go to AT&T.com, check out, or go to AT&T, check out the Apple iPhone 5. Both are great phones, and it really is up to you which one you like or which one you think is better. So be sure to comment in the comment below what you like, and be sure to see you next time. Be sure to watch all the other comparison reviews too we'll be doing with the Moto X and the Apple iPhone 5. You can search for them on the chrisvossshow.com or on our YouTube channel. Thanks for coming by.